Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is Ship Updates. Now, we do have a fairly lengthy episode to get out of the way today. It's going to be kind of a big one. Now, the Perseus has been kind of an omnipresent conversation piece for the last little while, and there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of unanswered questions in regards to the Perseus. Well, CIG has released the Perseus Q&A, and I basically went, I read it, I recorded more or less like a live commentary on it. So we're just going to switch over to that, and then we'll come back to the rest of the show. All right, the Perseus Q&A. It's kind of a doozy. It's very, very interesting. Let's put it that way. Question 1. Do the size 7 guns... I shouldn't say question 1 because I'll just stop doing it halfway through. You guys have watched me do these Q&As before. All right, first question. Do size 7 guns use bespoke ammunition, and how much ammo can the gunboat carry? The brochure's picture implies dedicated ballistic ammo loaders below the turret can customize the rounds to be either high explosive or armor penetrating rounds like IRL battle tanks. Can choose between during battle. So basically like your heat, your AP, FSD, whatever. Will the size 7 guns be swappable, or are they locked like on the Ares? Answer: the main turret weapons on the Perseus are currently planned to be bespoke size 7 ballistics. I don't know about that. With customizable ammo types to provide flexibility. So a good and a bad answer. I would kind of prefer personally to be able to choose the guns, because different guns have different ranges and different capabilities within them. Sometimes you want to design a ship not so much for flexibility, but you want to design a ship for a very specific purpose. So you want to build a ship out for a very specific purpose or tactic. And I'm not sure if CIG's maybe like a little afraid of what could happen with, it's hard as a game developer to kind of anticipate everything players are going to do with the systems you design. And unintended gameplay is kind of like the garden that we love to play in. So they're probably trying to kind of put the, kind of tamp that down. I kind of understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, for me personally, I prefer the flexibility in terms of starting at the guns and letting me pick a specific gun for a specific task or job. But they do allow you to carry different types of ammunition, so to give you much more flexible results from those very specific guns. So it's kind of a 50-50 in my opinion. I would like to see swappable guns, but I do like the idea of swappable ammunition. Just, I wonder if it's not going to be like an auto loader where you're loading up like 5 clips in a drum, or 5 rounds into a drum, and then firing those 5 rounds, and then you have to switch, and they don't really answer as to the limitation of ammunition. But then again, we're very early stages. We haven't even seen size 7 guns in games, so we don't know how much damage they do, really. We might have theoretical ideas of how much damage they do, but in practical experience, there's not a lot known here. So everyone, like from CIG to the players, it's all just pure guesswork. So kind of a 50-50 on that one. All right, next question. How far along is the ship? What is the current stage within the pipeline? Of course it's not. They would have told us if it was. It's a concept. Don't even really have to read that. How heavily armored, how heavily is it armored? Next question. It's heavily armored for its size and designed to take a beating from other ships, but it isn't as strong as a capital ship. So if you're kind of going out there and you're kind of, taking on carracks or hammerheads or things in and around that size, you're probably going to be fairly all right. But anything bigger, you may want to bring a few Perseuses along. So I think Idris's, Polaris's, Javelins are going to give you a really tough time. Vandal King ships, yeah, they're going to give you a hard time. Next question. What are those pylons on each side of the it's decorative. It's like the guns that aren't guns on the wings of many ships, you know? It's decorative. It's not functional. It's like so many parts of our ships. Currently they're decorative, yes. It was the rule of cool, yep. Blah, 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 blah. Maybe we'll do something with it in the future. We've heard that before. Parking sensors on the Caterpillar. Anyone? Next question. What is the largest ship that the size 7 guns will be effective against? For example, no one has seen size 7 guns yet. All of this is theoretical, so don't like base your idea like, oh yeah, they said it's going to do this. It's like, yeah, they say a lot of things when they're selling it. They're expected to be effective against all large size ships. If targeting critical areas on capital, they should provide similar effectiveness as the Crusader size Ares size 7 weaponry. Similar effectiveness, yet we haven't seen how effective those are. So it's all guesswork. It's all theoretical. Just leave it at that. It's all theoretical. No one has played with a size 7 gun yet, as far as I know. You can't even buy them in game. All right, next question. Does it have an armory or weapon racks, medical facilities, and facilities for troop carrying? Well, troop carrying I think is a bit of a reach, but it should have the rest. Otherwise, what is the point of a patrol ship being able to carry a rover? In lore, the ship is not designed to carry a rover. It's more of a happy accident that it can, and its goal, and it is a good representation of the general cargo volume. It has no armory or troop carrying capabilities. Well, troop carrying capabilities I can agree with. Armory I cannot, as that is not its role. Its typical role is fleet defense. So what? It's a patrol ship. It's it's not a hammerhead. So it would rely on other ships in the fleet for its medical needs. That is the most asinine response I've ever read. It's like, it's a patrol ship, but it's fleet defense. You know, it's just meant to defend the fleet. It's not meant to go out on patrol like a patrol ship. So it doesn't have really any kind of an armory to supply yourself with perhaps guns and armor, because of course going out in space you're never going to need different types of armor. You're never going to need different types of guns. You know, if you're defending your ship and all of a sudden you're getting boarded, who needs heavy armor? Who needs, you know, assault rifles or grenades or anything like that they don't want to carry around with them all the time? No, of course not. That's not a military ship. I mean, how many frigates in the U.S. Navy have like an armory where they store assault rifles and shotguns and, you know, body armor and things like that? Answer: none of them, of course. Of course, all of them do. I'm being facetious. This is a stupid answer. The lack of a medical facility is also ridiculous. I'm not talking about like a full-fledged surgical suite that can do like facial alteration and all kinds of nice little things like that. But a basic medical facility, like a sick bay where you can, you know, let's say you happen across somebody's ship and a lot of their crew is injured and you want to help them out. You know, they're like, what medical facilities do you have? Well, we have first aid kits. Like, no one's ever going to get injured on your ship. You're never going to be down on the surface of a planet or, you know, suffer some critical battle damage and people aren't going to get injured and require some basic medical facility beyond a med kit. Oh no, it goes back to the fleet for its medical needs. That's asinine. It's a patrol ship. It should have a basic medical facility. It doesn't need to be a full suite, but a basic bed and a spawn point and stuff like that, it should have those things. So that's ridiculous. Is the cargo elevator the only entrance into a landed Perseus? I'm guessing that there's a few Star Runner people who bought the Perseus as well. Or is there a dedicated entrance for personnel? There is a dedicated entrance for personnel located on the bottom of the ship to the rear behind the cargo elevator. Good. 2 thumbs up on that. Actually, there's more because the docking bays on either side of the ship. You know, you got the little docking port that they highlighted. So there's more entrances if you're at a space station. All right. Why does the exterior why does the exterior appear to have 2 doors whilst only 1 airlock? Wait, what? You gotta be shitting me. You're kidding. Wait, this can't be like this. This is... Come on. Why does the exterior appear to have 2 doors whilst only 1 airlock? Is it meant to only have 1 airlock and it was just for symmetry, or does the other side have a function? There is no functionality there. It was purely done for symmetry, okay? So, right here, right in this corner, you put an armory where you store weapons and armor. Over here, you put a medical bay with like a couple of basic bunks that's just a spawn point enough to heal or keep critically injured crew members alive. There you go, CIG. There's your medical facility. There's your armory. Good job. I mean, like, I can understand having only a docking port on one side. It's like you can orient the ship many different ways in 3-dimensional space, so it's not critical. But if you're looking for space for an armory and a medical facility, there it is. Put it in. All right. Next question. Why is the SCM speed for a 100-meter ship set at a sedate 92 meters a second? It's not 92 meters a second. You have to think about going beyond SCM speed, as every ship can. You got to get out of this arena commander mentality. This is probably a ship that's going to be doing somewhere, I would say, between maybe 800 at the super high end, more likely about 700 meters a second, to at the low end, maybe 400, 500 meters a second when it's going full tilt. So, yeah. 92 meters a second is not that big a deal. It's not that out of line for a ship like this that's heavily armored. Like, I don't even have to read their answer to know. The SCM speed is broadly in line with other ships of its size. Yes, it is, class and weight. Particularly given its heavily armored nature. There you go. Though, as always, speed will be revisited as the ship progresses through the pipeline. It's not that big a deal. 92 meters a second as a base speed is, for a ship this size, is not that big a deal. All right. Will it have pilot-controlled weapons? Will both big man turrets be able to link to the pilot via computer blades if the crew gets sick, or if I just don't want to bring people along? Answer: the pilot will have access to the torpedoes. That's a strong plus. That's good. And some of the other bridge stations will be able to control weapons. Like other ships with man turrets, they're designed to be human operated. However, as a fallback, they will be able to be NPC crewed. So you can NPC crew your main turrets, the secondary turrets at the very least, though I think you're supposed to be able to blade them as well. I think that was heavily implied in the brochure. So you effectively could, depending on how it all works out and depending on how you relay commands, so fire at this, shoot at that, or just do whatever you do, this could, weapons wise, this could still be effective in the hands of one player. However, the complexity of managing all these systems plus the other systems that go with a ship like this could quickly become a nightmare for a single player pilot. And some people say, oh, I'm using the Glass app or I'm using voice commands. This could quickly overwhelm a player. That's why I say that for this, I would kind of look towards bringing some friends along. I feel that this goes beyond, for me personally, in my opinion, this goes beyond what a single player can effectively manage. But let's see. The pilot has access to torpedoes like other ships with manned turrets. However, as a fallback, they are able to be NPC crewed. Yeah, so it's still, if you're looking to single player this thing, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think that's going to be kind of a tough job. All right, next question. People speculate that the ship will be able to ram enemy ships as seen in one of the concept art images. Is this the plan? Will the front feature a heavy-duty armor? Answer: the concept art depicts the Perseus moving through the wreck of the Hammerhead after destroying it. Artful dodge there. Not actually ramming it. Like other ships, it's capable of it, but it's not recommended nor designed to do so. Yeah. All right, next question. According to the Perseus IAE page, it states nearly identical to the historic military original. Get to know the new Perseus. What makes the Perseus different from the military original, and will players be able to acquire the military original in game or in the future? So let's not even bother reading the answer to this one. Let me just answer it for you. Flavor text, sizzle text, whatever. You know, it's just hocus pocus and malarkey. You know, just to give you a general feel for the ship. They're not going to build two Perseuses. Why would you even want that? You know, how long are you going to be waiting for this ship? You want them to build two? An antiquated version and this version? It's just flavor text. You're probably never even going to see an ancient Perseus or an old Perseus in the game. So, like, why even ask for it? There's so many things that we're waiting for in Star Citizen. How is this even like a want? And how did this question even get into the Q&A? It's ridiculous. All right, next question. What are the expected weaknesses of the Perseus versus a ship such as the Hammerhead, specifically blind spots, no such thing, speed, armor, etc.? And can the manned turrets be turned quickly enough to easily follow fast targets like dogfighters, medium fighters, etc.? Yes. All right, their answer is the big weakness of this ship is a swarm of fighters. I will add to that, a swarm of fighters carrying a lot of missiles that can lock from very long range. That's its weakness. If you're counting on it being like, if you're gonna swarm it with like 5, 6, 7 fighters and you're using guns, good luck, because this thing is just going to accelerate and those size 3 turrets are just going to rip you to shreds while you're still trying to maneuver at those speeds to get a shot. There's never going to be a blind spot, and it's going to be difficult to engage fighters with those size 7 turrets, but it's also difficult to maneuver a fighter at 400, 500, 600, and 700 meters a second, which is the area where this ship is going to be living if it's smart, if its pilot is smart. And so what you very quickly realize is that, God, I forget the name of the term. I used to remember it for EVE Online, when we used to engage in long range battleship battles way back in the day. But the actual relative motion of the fighter to the ship, when you're talking about those speeds and its maneuverability, is just like a fighter's maneuverability is shot. So you're going to be able to swarm this thing with fighters, but they're going to have to be fighters with missiles that can fire at a long range, because if you get in too close to this thing and you're just plinking away with your machine guns, it doesn't take that much for those size 3 turrets to really kind of give you a beating. Size 3 guns may not seem all that impressive, but when you're fighting to control your ship and you're technically flying it at a speed where it's out of control, and you're still trying to aim your guns and do all that, this guy's going to have a huge advantage over you. You're going to have to bring a hell of a lot of fighters to bring this thing down. And that's assuming a Perseus with absolutely nobody going along with them in terms of fighters, in terms of other medium-sized ships. So its weaknesses are it really can't fight against the heavier capital ships. Its weaknesses are torpedoes, being swarmed by torpedoes. Fighters, this seems like this is the product of like, well, what happens if we trap this ship in Arena Commander, right? Next question. In the brochure, it states that twin ballistic Gatling guns can be fully automated or remotely controlled to keep incoming ordnance at bay. Will it require AI blades to automate these, or is the automation part of ship design, as this line of text seems to imply? So we were talking about that earlier. These turrets will come equipped with blades. So there you go. 2 big thumbs up there. So it can be automated by default. In addition, they will be controllable remotely from the bridge if a player wishes to manually control them. So that's a good thing. That's great. It comes with the server blades built in. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out. Do you kind of assign priorities like torpedoes over fighters or fighters over torpedoes, or how that AI works those things out? It's going to be interesting to see how that kind of comes to life in the game. But that's good. That's a good answer. But overall, that is the Perseus Q&A. There's your armory. There's your medical bay. CIG, please fix. It's decorative. Dedicated gun. Kind of a plus, kind of a minus. I would prefer more flexibility at starting at the gun rather than in the ammunition, but I'm not overly concerned about it. It's not the end of the world. It really depends on what CIG does with the ammunition and the variety of ammunition that's available to us. But I still kind of feel like I would be able to want to change the guns, but this would not make me want to refund the guns. Lack of an armory and a medical bay is asinine. Overall, has it changed my feelings about the Perseus? No. Perseus still a strong ship, still a very likable ship. Of course, you're going to find a lot of armchair captains who are going to try to construct all these scenarios where this is terrible and it needs to change. There's nothing inherently terrible about this ship. There's some interesting design choices, and there are a couple of bad design choices, but those are really relative to the interior. I still disagree with the turret placement, but overall, it's still a decent ship. And if money were no object, I'd probably own one. But at the end of the day, I kind of went the torpedo route. So we'll see how that plays out in the future. I think it's going to be interesting. But if you own a Perseus, yes, much as I said when it first came out, you're probably looking at a 2-year wait minimum before you see this ship in game, unless there's some kind of miracle where there's a mission that you need this for in Squadron 42. Squadron 42 2016, by the way. So, yeah, chances are this isn't even going to make it into Squadron 42. So, yeah, it's gonna be a ways off. You're gonna get a heavily armored brawler, and if you're going up against things like Carracks and ships like that, and you're definitely a smart pilot, you're controlling your situation. You're not letting your enemy dictate the situation to you. If you're smart, this is gonna be a really good ship. Definitely a solid ship. Just needs a medical bay and an armory. CIG, get on it. Anyways, back to the show. All right, so some interesting news about the Perseus. Still believe it needs like just a basic medical bay and a basic armory. But moving on, of course, we got to see the Talon in action. Now, this is, of course, in-house. This is not out in the world. This is supposed to come later this month, fingers crossed. And there's a lot of people who purchased the Talon, I believe it was in August, and are now looking forward to seeing their ship. Certainly, when I was talking in the Q&A, I believe about the idea of swarming the Perseus with a fighter, especially one that fires a lot of missiles. There certainly is a variant of the Talon. I believe it's the Shrike. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. That is very missile-based. So that could be a large swarm of those, could be fairly strong in that regard. It's not a fighter that I own. It's not a fighter that for me, excites me. You know, there's a lot of things that we talk about in these videos about the limitations when you're out in the universe that fighters unfortunately kind of shackle the pilot with, that I'm just not into at all. But overall, I mean, it looks like it's going to be a pretty solid fighter, and a gorgeous one at that. The iridescent skin that they managed to pull off with this ship is just absolutely next level. And in a weird way, I'm actually kind of disappointed now that the Prowler doesn't have the same iridescent skin. And I almost think that at some point in the future, you're going to see a similar paint job sold for the Prowler that gives that same effect. CIG also showcased the Gladius, the new, basically the pull-away panels on the Gladius that you can use to access the systems within it, the quantum drive, the engines, the shields, all of that stuff. You have to think now they have to go back with all the other fighters and do the same thing, but the Gladius being kind of the proving ground and the test bed for all this stuff makes it a pretty decent buy of a ship. If you're going to own a fighter, it's a pretty solid fighter, and on top of that, you get to be right on the bleeding edge of all the new technology. Now, we also got to see interior shots of the forthcoming Redeemer. This is a ship that is actually in production. It is moving forward. The Redeemer is going to be delivered. It looks pretty promising. I can't wait to see some updated exterior shots, hopefully later on this year. Or no, sorry, I guess 2021 would be the safer bet at this point. So there at the end, we got some previews of some things that are hopefully fairly soon to come. Of course, we also have the Novik tank, which is in production right now. We have the Hercules. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of interesting things that are going to be happening in the Star Citizen universe. I still kind of hold to the idea that you're not going to see the Perseus for probably a couple of years in terms of in-game, mainly because it's not far along enough to basically be shoehorned into Squadron 42. So because I don't think it's going to make that. I think that largely it is, it's probably about 2 years away for a Perseus if you own one. The other capital ships, things like the Polaris, who knows? I mean, potentially they could have done something with the Polaris and just not told us, but I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that. But yeah, Perseus, my current estimate is 2022 at the earliest. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.